Hello, everybody. My name is Geraldine de Bastion, and I have the honor of being the stage host here at the Fashion Sustain stage. So thanks very much for joining also the last stage session that we have prepared for you, which is in fact not a panel, but a closing keynote that we're going to have, which is going to be followed by some time for your questions and answers. And it's going to be held by two ladies who both work at the Beneficial Design Institute. Sarah Maria Schmidt, who's responsible for circular materials and design, is going to be joined by Friederike von Wedel-Palo. And both will be basing the content of their talk on a study that they recently conducted on behalf of the Christian Romeo Initiative, presenting the results of that study, brand new, here for you now, and also giving a little bit of an outlook on some of the topics coming up for the next KEYNOTE conference. So please give a big round of applause and welcome to Sarah and Friederike on the topic of better buying policies and how to empower buyers.
Yeah. Yes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this final session. I'm very pleased to be invited to present the study on better buying. Actually, we have been invited from the Christian Initiative Romeo to do this study on fast fashion and to give insights into buying practices and to come out with recommendations, but also to see, kind of to also define what fast fashion actually is. So kind of after this really fantastic deep dive into the denim discussion, we're now at the other end of the industry to look into these areas. Fast fashion is actually not the core of our institute, nor the buying practices, but what we were asked actually is to break down these practices into a language and speak that is easy for people to understand. So it's a report that is addressed to the customer, to all customers. So we try to break down these kind of practices in the industry to make it understandable. It's maybe one thing that we have to say in advance. We know that, or probably kind of this 80% of design, of the impact on the industry, sorry, my baby is crying, so a bit, 80% of the impact is made in the design stage, but if you probably look into what happens in fast fashion companies is that these decisions that are made in design stage are actually made in the buying department, kind of what kind of material, what kind of style, the number, the lead time, the quality, everything is decided there. So we really have to understand how important this is, this buying behavior and this knowledge of the buying people to actually live the CSR strategies and code of conduct to make it into the operational concept. And last year we've been in Asia and Bangladesh in a factory, and I was there with a product manager, not the buyer, but the one that actually prepares all the decisions that the buyer then can make. And she was, for 30 years in the business, it was the first time she ever went into the factory and saw how kind of what happens there. And she was kind of, one of the takeouts was kind of, oh man, if I'd know what they're actually able to do and what kind of where the challenges are, we would also do the products and design decisions differently. And there's kind of this gap of what happens in the decision making and what happens in the ground. So I think a lot of the outcome of this study is not new, or it's for especially the experts in this audience knowledge. We found a lot of things, but also some surprising outcome. And I hand over to Sarah Schmidt, Sarah Maria Schmidt, who was dealing in detail with the study and will give you insights into the findings. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Friederike. So I myself worked in the fast fashion industry as a designer. And when I was working in that position, I was always trying to find the little screws that I, as an individual, could turn a little bit to make the system better. But as you can imagine, as an individual, that is very challenging. And I'm very happy to now have been invited to present our study here at the NeoNIT. And as Geraldine already said, it's a brand new study. It was only published 3 weeks ago. So we are very excited to be able to present it here today. And yeah, it was conducted for the Christian Initiative Romero. So in case you're not familiar with them, they're closely connected to the Clean Clothes campaign. And here on the left, you can actually see the cover of the dossier Fast Fashion. So this publication is now available for free, and you can download it through the Christian Initiative Romero's website. Our study resulted in 2 of these articles. Because this fast fashion dossier is actually divided into 3 parts, looking at buying practices from a bit different angles. And our specific research resulted in 2 articles, one particularly on buying practices and the social implications that they cause. And the other one was a very extensive research and summary of key facts and numbers and data that actually help to quantify the impact on a social and also on an ecological level of fast fashion. The third part of this dossier was done by a worker organization in Sri Lanka, and this is also a very, very interesting part of the whole dossier because it actually shows the state of the art right now in Sri Lanka. So really quickly to the agenda, I'm just going to briefly introduce who we are as Beneficial Design Institute, and then we will look a bit closer into the study that we conducted for the Christian Initiative. So we will look into the methodology, but then also look into the analysis of fast fashion and buying practices and the impacts that they have. In the end, I will then leave you with some recommended actions that we found as a result of this study. Quality, beauty, and innovation are really what drives us at the Beneficial Design Institute. We are a design development and research institute for beneficial fashion and textiles, and we believe that we need a totally new approach to design that is positive and solution-based and that actually puts the human needs and aesthetics central to the design process. And when we are thinking about design, we are not just thinking about how can we design the product itself, but how can we actually design the whole system around this product. We are very much working a lot with the cradle-to-cradle philosophy and design principles. So these are guiding us through everything that we are doing. And our main goal is to achieve a cultural change, and by this creating positive effects across the whole system. And this is also why we were approached by the Christian Initiative to conduct this study, because we have this very holistic and systemic approach. We identified the cut, make, trim processes within the supply chain as one of the hotspots for the social implications within the fast fashion production. So this is why we focused our research on this area mainly. Very quickly, regarding the methodology, we were very lucky in our research to find great partners for qualitative interviews. And I listed the names for you so you can have a look, and you can already see they're coming from very different backgrounds, and they brought us very different perspectives on buying practices. And I think this is also why the whole report and the articles in the end came out to be really well-rounded, because we gathered all these different voices from the industry. 2 reports that I want to highlight and recommend are the reports by Better Buying and, on the other hand, the Joint Ethical Trading Initiative. And with our research, we were able to validate and confirm also some of their findings and arguments made. The target group, as Friederike, my colleague, already introduced, of the whole study is the end consumer. So this was actually one key challenge also, to look into how can we communicate such a complex issue as buying practices to a wide mass of people. And on the right, you can just have like a little sneak peek into the report itself. It's in German, so I'm not sure if everyone can understand it, but I think it already gives a little bit of a visual idea of what the report looks like. Another challenge that we found in our research or in the preparation of our research was finding partners from within the industry from the buying departments. We actually didn't find any buyer who wanted to talk to us on record. We found some that were willing to talk to us off record, but not on record. So I think this already indicates that this is a very interesting issue to look a bit deeper into, because there is probably some reasons why they don't want to talk to us. So unfortunately, we all know images like this. This image was taken from a film called Machines. And as we all know, fast fashion causes very complex problems on many levels. So on one hand, we have the ecological issues, but then we also have social and cultural implications. So the exploitation of garment workers, as I already said earlier, is primarily within the section of the cut, make, trim, as we found in our research. And this also has a lot to do with the buying decisions and buying practices that brands do in their everyday work. What we were asked to do was also to find for the end consumer a very clear and crisp definition of what fast fashion actually is. But what we found was very interesting. I found very surprising that there isn't really like any specific definition of what fast fashion means, but instead there's many individual definitions. And one that stood out to me personally was the one from Professor Marsha Dixon from Better Buying. And she said, and I quote, "To me, fast fashion simply means waste. Waste in people, materials, and products that so quickly end up in landfill." And to me, this really stood out because it highlighted this element of people as waste. So in fast fashion, people are, in a way, a very disposable good, a disposable resource. And I think that is still very shocking to me. When we think about fast fashion, though, we also have to understand that there are different dynamics and speeds within fast fashion. So this is also directly coming from the report. So don't be afraid of the slide because it's quite packed. But what I want you to do is just focus on two areas. One is the trend products and one is the seasonal collection. So what we found in our research that these two product groups or product segments are very critical in terms of the buying practices. So the trend products on one hand, because they follow a very extreme speed. I mean, fast fashion anyways, it's very fast, as it implies in the name. But the trend products have a very exaggerated speed that they follow. So this creates a lot of pressure and a lot of tension. On the other hand, the seasonal collection, this is very critical because the suppliers have to make quite a lot of investments in terms of the sampling and the production, but they have a very low return on investment. So in this regard, also the seasonal collection has to be looked at in a very critical way. What we also have to understand is that in fast fashion companies, in the big ones, there is certainly a specific buying department, but especially smaller or middle-sized fast fashion companies, they still do all the processes that are needed for buying, but those may be distributed to other positions within the brand. So in my own experience, for example, as a designer working in a middle-sized fast fashion company, I was also involved in those buying processes. So for example, I ordered samples, I did price negotiations, I did communications with suppliers. So also these are very typical buying processes, but they can be also distributed within the organization. So I'm talking here about buying, but we can't let the designers completely off the hook here. So the role of buying and fast fashion, I think this is also already probably a bit known to most of you, but just to refresh the knowledge maybe. So buying in fashion refers to the procurement of clothing purchased from suppliers. So what this really means and what's important to understand is it's the practice of how goods are developed, selected and ordered for the stores. And one main aim in buying is, of course, to achieve a very fast and flexible production at low prices within the brand's own demands on quality. So here we already see the factors: speed, price, and quality. And this is creating a lot of friction with the strategies implemented by the CSR departments of the fast fashion brands. So on one hand, we have the code of conduct, which is typically like a very standard document from the CSR department. On the other hand, we have the order sheets. So I just want you to focus on one number here. It's 59% of the contracts that actually contain no information at all on the working conditions or environmental safety. So as you can see, there is a lot of contradictions happening, and there is a big gap between the buying departments and their demands and the demands of the CSR departments. So the question is really, how can we harmonize this better, and how can we bring this more into one line? And therefore, we found through our research that buying is such an important key to implement and to bring the sustainability strategies of the brands into the actual practice. Coming back to the three factors that I mentioned earlier, which are time, price, and quality, they're not just factors that influence the whole process of buying and the production, but they are also the success criteria that buyers are measured by. So of course, every buyer also wants to be good at their job. So what do? They just pass on these criteria onto the suppliers. And in fact, 65% of all suppliers are only evaluated taking into account the lead time, the product quality, and the price, according to Catherine Early. So these factors and how they interplay with each other, they create a lot of friction, a lot of tension, and a lot of pressure at the supplier level. And what we found in our research is that ethical criteria are hardly there, hardly evaluated, and they should be emphasized a lot more and taken as one fourth criteria to really measure the success of both the buyer and also the supplier. What we did in our research was we identified the most common practices of the buying departments within fast fashion and showed their impacts on the suppliers, on the workers, and also on the environment. Consequently, all of those are influencing the quality of life within the production countries tremendously. So here, I just want to focus on three main buying practices, which are, I would say, standard in fast fashion, unfortunately. So the first one is that there are very aggressive and competitive price negotiations, which then cause competition across the suppliers to get the order. And a lot of the times, the prices do not cover the cost of production or the social and ecological and qualitative requirements of the brands themselves. So 39% of suppliers, in fact, accept prices below the production costs, according to Catherine Early. So it's 39%. So how should they then make improvements if they don't really have the money to make them? Another very critical factor is the negotiation of very, very short lead times and placing the order at a very late stage. And this creates a lot of time pressure for the suppliers, and throughout the whole production, up to the delivery of the goods, the suppliers are really trying to catch up with the loss of time there. Inaccurate forecasting is something that we could actually, with modern technology, also solve really well. And it's something that I think we can really work on, and buyers should really focus on. And this also includes that a lot of tech packs that suppliers receive are in fact completely inaccurate. It's 33% of all the technical informations that suppliers receive are from the start inaccurate. So if we already have a lot of competition regarding the price if we already have very short time to produce the goods, and then we also have inaccurate information, then it just makes the whole system a lot more tense and it adds a lot more pressure to this. So let's focus briefly on the social impacts. And I want to highlight here one, which is the future prospects. So what we found in our research is that this is a point that affects the whole community, and it also affects the next generations within these communities. Because it means if there is a lack of investment and viable capital that suppliers can invest into the education and training of the workers, there's hardly any room for them to actually improve their own living conditions. And then added to this, if there is no living wages that are being paid, then it's also hard for the families themselves to send their children, the next generation, to get a good education and to go on to do university studies and so forth. So this is a fact that I find very critical because it's going to impact also the next generation in these manufacturing countries. And just to put this into a bit global perspective, and I think some of the numbers may already be known to some of you. So there's currently 60 million garment workers working in global fast fashion. 75% of those are female. So if we are thinking about female empowerment and actually benefiting a lot of people and having a lot of impact, implementing better buying practices can be a very effective tool to improve the lives of many, many people. On the other hand, there's 27 million textile workers worldwide affected by work-related diseases. I think this is not acceptable. And there's 1,600 reported deaths, which were just reported in newspapers between 2012 and 2017. So this number, we can assume, is actually, in fact, in reality, a lot higher because a lot of the deaths may not be reported. So if we want to see this, though, in a bit more positive way, I think we really have to understand that by implementing better buying decisions, we will also really improve these numbers, and we're going to have a big social impact. So let's move on to the ecological impacts. So what really stands out here is the increased waste. So if the information isn't accurate that suppliers receive, or if the time pressure is really just too high, there may be defects in quality. So we have a lot of pre-production waste, and we also have a lot of pieces which just have to be destroyed due to quality defects. So this causes, of course, an increased waste, which is very unnecessary. On the other hand, there is also a lack of technological investments. So this is, again, a factor that will impact the whole community. Because if there is no capital to invest into, for example, water filters or air filters, this is actually going to impact the environment of the people in the manufacturing countries. And yeah, I think this image in the background also highlights this and really puts a bit light on this also. Also putting this, the ecological impact, a bit into numbers. And this is just a very small excerpt of the research that we conducted regarding the numbers and data. There is, as one hotspot, there are 43 million tons of chemicals per year that are used in the textile industry. And this, in as such, may not be critical if it was biodegradable and healthy and good chemicals. But we know that 24% of all chemicals that are released into the water streams are, in fact, aquatoxic. So this has a large impact on biodiversity and just the whole health of the environment. On the other hand, if we focus on water, there's 79 billion cubic meters of water used in 2015 in the fashion industry. And this is such a large number. We actually calculated it down for the end consumer to make it a bit more tangible. This means that it is 2,608 liters per day if broken down to the population of Germany. And then if we even break it down further, if we all think that we on average drink about 1.4 to 1.5 liters a day, that means that a person in Germany can live 5 years and drink 5 years fresh, clean, wonderful water. And this is just the water that is used in one day by the fashion industry. So I think like these numbers, of course, are, very outraging. Let's move on to the recommended actions that we found through our, as a result of our study. First of all, every brand should develop a brand-specific definition of sustainability and integrate ethical criteria across the company. And what I want to highlight here is that the engagement must come from the top management and be lived in all departments. It's not fair to put the fault of the system and of the whole company onto one single person and on one individual buyer. And yes, we just have to strengthen the qualitative and ethical criteria tremendously. The next one is that we need to foster transparency and communication within the brands and an open and constructive dialogue through between brand and suppliers. And this also includes having an accurate and transparent forecasting system. So this will really help and facilitate production and reduce all these pressure points and the stress level. On the other hand, we also have to create incentives for responsible buying and compliance. Of course, also suppliers will put their money into the investments that they also receive the money from the brands for. So this on one hand means offering support and guidance, but as I said, it also means finding ways to incentivize good and better compliance behavior. The next one of the recommended actions, I think, is actually very important for smaller to middle-sized fast fashion brands. And this is the active participation in multi-stakeholder initiatives and organizations. And we found that it will be so much easier to find solutions for the whole industry if we take a collaborative effort and approach to finding these solutions. So for example, if we are thinking about workshops or audits, we really have to consider more standardization and harmonization of the same. On the other hand, we also found in our research that there are already great tools and very effective means to achieve better buying practices within brands. And it's just a matter of really integrating them into the brands. So for example, I just want to highlight the existing and very successful tools by Better Buying, but it could also be traffic light system, open costing sheets, or ethical scorecards. So we found in our research that there is actually already a lot available. It's more that a lot of brands may not be aware of that, or they're not implementing it yet. So all in all, we need a systemic change in fashion, and I think this is very important to highlight. And buying is one of the important keys to create healthy production processes. So this can be seen as one of the end results of our study. And unfortunately, we could not find any best practice example in fast fashion, like a brand that I could now just name and say they're doing it already really, really well. There are some that we found in our research who are on a good track, I want to say, but there is still a lot to do. But we also have to keep in mind that every brand has to find a bit their own individual solutions because the problems are so individual as well. So there is unfortunately not an easy answer to this complex problem of buying practices. Yeah, so with this, I want to leave you, and of course, thank you for your attention. You can download both of our articles as well as the whole dossier through the links below on the Christian Initiatives website. Yes, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for being here and presenting those results. Super interesting insights. We have some time left for questions and comments. And there's one there already. Okay, I'm going to attempt to throw this at you, yeah? Yay.
Okay, first of all, thank you for this valuable presentation. I really liked it. And I'm one person in this big ocean of people who are trying to bring these numbers down. And I have a question related to the tech packs, to the inaccuracy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, okay, I can hear myself. Yes, I'm having a question regarding the inaccuracy of tech packs. So if you have any further insights on that, like what makes a tech pack inaccurate actually?
This is caused by different factors. So some things are just that within the companies, also in the design and in the buying departments, everyone is also under time pressure. So this is then also resulting in inaccuracies in the tech packs because maybe there is no time to do a final check. Sometimes it may also be that some pieces are just ordered and the brands already know that this is actually not that much needed, but they still want to see the sample. So this then also creates, of course, like oversampling. Yeah, but then on the other hand, there is also this question about fast fashion trying to be very flexible and fast, and there is a lack of commitment from the brands. So there is a lot of last-minute changes also regarding the material or some trims or some other things like the print or the colors. There's so many things where it can go wrong, and it's always best if from the very start brands work very accurately and just do their job correct, basically. Because right now, because of this tremendous time pressure, a lot of the times it's just inaccurate, and then they just pass the problem onto the supply chain, onto the next one in it, which is the supplier, who then pass it again onto the workers. Yeah. So this doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I'll squeeze in. Do you want to answer to that as well?
Now, we were thinking that we were also quite interested in who's actually sitting in the audience, if there are more people like you that do have experience in the buying department in bigger brands, maybe. Yeah, okay. And or the CSR people that maybe have the other perspective within it. So maybe, I think there's some of you sitting here. We were quite curious what you think would be helpful, or what kind of steering instruments you would wish, for example, from the industry in general or government, that could help you to change, because a lot of people are sitting in these companies like you did. Yeah. With a wish to change, but kind of there could be some steering instrument from outside that could help. Maybe you have some comments in that direction that I would like to.
So I have been basically building tech packs for the last 10 years of my life. So this was what I was doing, and I was also working in fast fashion, and I can relate to the problem of last minute changes, because this is what fashion is all about, right? You want to be as fashionable as possible, and that sometimes require last-minute changes. And I knew the struggle, right? And I basically said goodbye to fast fashion. What I would wish from a product development point of view, which is closely related to buying, is more education, like a source outside of the industry, something that might be coming from Bundesministerium, something like this, right? Like education on what can be done, and what is maybe also a suggestion from this outsized initiative, right? Like what kind of buying practices and development practices there should be. Yeah.
Thank you. Over here, please. Well done.
That surprised myself. So I'm on the other side. I'm working at Zalando on the ethical trade and sustainability team, and I'm responsible for talking to the buyers about responsible purchasing practices. And so one of the questions I have as you know, there's all this information out there, and we have all this statistics, and I've read the Better Buying Report and the ETI. But my bigger challenge is, how do I talk to buyers about this? Or is it even training? Is it more just talking to management about this? Where should I be placing my resources?
Yes, there is definitely a lack of training and workshops and knowledge maybe in the buying department about those everyday decisions that they make and what they cause. So I think workshops and training are very effective tools to improve this. But then again, if those decisions aren't coming from the top management, then you can have a very well educated and like a buyer with the best intentions in mind, but they still have to just fulfill the demands of the company. So to me, it needs both.
Yeah, and one finding, may I just add, in the report was that it's a question also on the success criteria for a buyer, that if only the time and the numbers are what the buyer is evaluated with, then these instruments are kind of not helpful. So I think this is really a discussion in the businesses to bring these ethical buying behaviors as one of a success that a buyer can bring. And then that would be a very important Stellschraube as well.
Okay, I just want to attach the question, if this was sort of a prelude of program that you would like to see come in the next year, what are the sessions you're thinking of? Is it a workshop specifically directed at buyers to pass on some of this information? Is it a panel bringing together some people? What is it you'd like to see to discuss this content further?
Yeah, I think it needs both, actually. A panel discussion is so much needed, also bringing in people from very different perspectives and backgrounds. Maybe someone who brings in knowledge and the perspective in terms of politics and legislation would be very interesting. But then, of course, buyers, designers, and brands. But also a workshop format, I think, could be a very effective tool. Yes.
Yeah, and so we were quite kind of, this was only a little teaser presentation of this study to actually take this topic further also next season here at the Neonit, and I think that would be very appreciated to also find ways to support the companies to make the change and to bring that discussion also there, how we can bring the CSR wish into the operational part to really make the change that we talk so much about and to really get it into do the change.
Absolutely, and very much look forward to seeing that happen here. And I think this would also be an open invitation to all of you. If you have sessions that you would like to attend and topics that you would like to see featured, like write to us. I'm sure that we'd be interested to receive your comments and your ideas that might, give us a better idea of the kind of things that you would like to attend and visit as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you both very much for presenting the results and hope to see you back here at the next Neonit. Let's have another big round of applause, please.
Thank you.